and we're streaming on everything yet. YouTube, catch up. Give us a ping when you're back. Oh, YouTube, Google. Anytime now. Stand by while we.
Oh, there we go. I think it's up.
Oh, it's there.
Hey.
All right, where were we before we were rudely interrupted by terrible internet?
Who can say? Well, let me bring back my notes. Is I think where we're up to. We're up to umming and ahhing and how we're trying to avoid doing it. In any case, to recap, we're doing this to build proficiency.
Mm-hmm.
One of the areas we need to build proficiency in is interviews. We've never spent much time doing interviews. I was interviewed once for a podcast for a completely unrelated thing, and it did not go well. In retrospect,
It is a hard thing, like being put in the moment like that.
I spoke way too fast. It was uncomfortable for everyone. A lot of sections got chopped out because I was saying things and then they literally couldn't understand me because I was so excited. I was speaking so
Well,
fast.
you seem a lot better. This seems like I can understand what you're saying when we look back at these. So.
I was in my 20s. I was just faster in general. Zippier.
Zippy.
More caffeine.
Fair enough. That's fair.
In any case, what was the other part before the building proficiency? The bit you were talking about, whatever crap you were banging on about before.
Oh, being able to relate the meta narrative or the decisions around what you want to talk about on a certain release.
Yeah.
So in our case, and I've written them down like a smart person does when they want to remember something. Our narrative and what we're talking about around why we started the band in the first place, but is very much related to the first couple of releases, is we're chasing dreams, we're leaving the corporate world behind us, even though I would argue that we're probably going to step into more corporate crap by doing this, and doing something fulfilling for us, which in this case is creating shit or interacting with culture. I've written, which in this case is music, but that's for me, and I wasn't thinking about you, and yours is not necessarily thinking about me playing with music.
I think for me, the fabric that I'm more interested in creating with is culture itself.
Yeah.
I
think I'm interested in that too, to be honest.
Yeah, music is the tool to do that.
Yeah.
And if you're a visual artist, visual art is the tool to do it, sculpture or whatever. That's your tool, but your medium is always culture.
Yeah.
So
I see a short in that.
Wow. In any case.
So, well, should we start by listening to the track again, since we're going to shamelessly flog our wares whenever we can?
No, we shouldn't listen to the track again on the stream. People can go to Spotify and listen to the track there.
They can.
Apple Music.
And then,
or the streaming platform of your choice.
And they can listen to it here. We'll give you the first 3 seconds. And no, we won't do that. You can go listen to it. We've already debuted it on the stream. It is available on all of the places that you get your music. So,
except for Canva.
And something else.
We didn't make it available on Canva.
Or Pinterest.
Or Pinterest. If you're streaming your music on Canva or Pinterest, I'm sorry, and also sorry for you.
Yeah.
Okay, in any case.
Well, let's. How do you want to start this? So, because this is a faux interview and we make stuff up as we go along.
We'll get to the interview.
What?
I just want to set the scene a little bit for interviews in general.
Set the scene.
Set the scene. Now, let's imagine that you're about to go on. You're about to go on Jimmy Fallon, or
I don't want to go on Jimmy Fallon.
Well, name somewhere where you'd rather go.
He's not on the TV anymore.
You're going to go on Tape Notes. You're about to step onto Tape Notes.
Tape Notes. Craig Ferguson.
You're about to step onto Craig Ferguson.
Even though he's not on the TV anymore. Graham Norton.
Oh my God.
Go on.
You're about to step onto a program, radio, podcast, TV, etc., to promote your new item, book, song,
painting.
Debut your paint. Yeah, paintings
Why?
don't really.
Yeah, why don't they do that?
Because they have their own weird little critical bubble. They have art shows.
Wouldn't it
Art's
be
gonna
fun
first.
though if like a late night show just looked at a painting for 5 minutes?
It'd be great.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. You watch, it'll happen now.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Called it here first.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, you're about to debut your new piece of art, and you have set up these engagements. Your publicist has set up these engagements. They are always made to look conversational and improvised, spontaneous, but they're not. You know, when you have a celebrity of some sort or an artist that is there telling stories about these things that have happened to them, that has all been agreed beforehand. It's extremely rare that they'll step off script during an interview. But that means that there's this whole piece of work that has to happen beforehand about, well, what stories are they going to tell? Why are they going to tell them? How do they connect to that larger cultural idea that they're laddering up to in their art? Because for a lot of people, this is going to be their first exposure. This is the thing that sets the context for how they're going to feel when they actually read the book, listen to the song, whatever it is. You're scaffolding the way that they're going to feel. So it's incredibly important to get right, and it adds, like anything that's important to get right, it benefits from some planning. So we are kind of going into this having done this kind of mock interview that we're about to do. We've done very extremely minimal planning, all of maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you know, our planning is getting better. I think there's an art in that as well.
But we're also trying to show here us finding our way.
Yeah.
You know, we're not shying away from this idea that
That's the trick.
that's the trick.
We can be dumb because we said...
Well, because
We
we've
are
acknowledged that we're silly duffers and we're trying to figure it out.
Silly duffers. I haven't heard that for a while.
Well, it's a much more appropriate non-ableist word than dumb.
Oh,
I'm offending the duffer community.
yeah, that's right. You are. How dare you offend the duffers? They're people too, man.
It's all right. It's I am a duffer.
You're a proud duffer.
I'm a proud duffer, and you should all be proud duffers too. Is duffer a regionally specific word?
I don't know.
Is it just an Australianism?
I feel yeah.
I apologise if it's just an Australianism.
There's a lot of Australianisms.
Very weird.
Yes, well, silly goose.
All right. Well, don't come the raw prawn with me. Let's get on with this.
All right. Well, what are we doing? The interview. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I guess so. Is there anything in the notes that I've skipped over here?
No, I don't think so.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
Let's carry on.
So, we're going to try to have an interview between us.
Yeah, we'll go backwards and forwards, I think. What do you reckon? Do you think we'll go backwards and forwards?
I think I should ask you a bunch of questions, and then we should switch, and you should ask me a bunch of questions.
Well, let's, because I've arranged, so just so you know, no. I want to talk about this, because this is kind of important too, because this goes directly to what you're saying. Like, we're figuring out this stuff, and when it comes to the interviewing stuff, and I've written down some questions that are kind of for both of us, and there are some that I should ask you, and there are some that should be asked of me, and there should be some that are asked of Matt, but he's not here. And because, you know, when it comes to the process of what we did here, Matt was involved quite early on in the production process where I was not involved. So I'm going to be making that up. But that's also part of...
It's also part of it.
That's also part of it. I'm going to make it up from stories that I've heard Matt tell me about those early parts of the process of that track. But I think we should go backwards and forwards in that respect. So
I worry about the going backwards and forwards, because if the goal is for you to get deeply into your interviewee headspace, then switching hats between interviewer is
Let me
maybe
look at
not
the
in
time.
your best interest.
All right, okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want? Oh no, I'll go. Yeah, you go first.
As in me answering questions first?
No, you ask me the questions.
Okay.
First. You interview me because the music, even though like in this process, the music kind of came before all the other stuff.
It absolutely came before.
So I think we should talk about the music and how I did the music stuff with Matt, and then we'll switch and I'll do the chatty about all the other crap, the marketing and the media stuff.
I've got a feeling I'm going to crash and burn hard on this, but okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I got some questions. We've got almost equal questions here. All right, interview.
good.
So the ones I've written as both, we should ask each other. And the
Okay,
ones
and
that
we'll work our way top to bottom, and then
the
we'll go
ones
over-
that are
perfect.
written with say Simon, they're questions I need to ask you, and the ones that say Josh are the ones that you need to ask me.
Okay.
That I wrote these.
Okay.
He didn't write them.
I didn't write them.
We didn't discuss this.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question 1.
Go.
Where are the bodies buried?
I couldn't tell you that, man, because I don't remember.
I thought I'd get him. Everyone. Yeah.
I've admitted that there is bodies, but I don't know where they are. And without evidence, you have no conviction. You didn't expect that I'd have an answer for that, did you?
I didn't know there were bodies. Don't implicate me in this.
You did.
I'm not an accessory.
Ooh,
Ooh.
that could have ended my computer. Let's go.
Okay, all right. Enough silliness.
That's not going to happen.
The Duffer community will get very upset. Okay. Why Frights? Why are you starting a band?
I don't know. Probably because I'm insane.
Extremely strong start.
No, that's not true. I've always I've genuinely wanted to make music professionally for a long time, and for a long time I thought I was doing that with the work that I'd done previously in my career, like through all the stuff I did with large media organizations, where I was working with established artists. Name them, Arctic Monkeys, 9 Inch Nails, Queens of the Stone Age, etc., etc., etc. These bands that would come through Australia, and I would be a part of recording for our national broadcaster. I at the start, that kind of filled that requirement that I have in myself, and for me, that felt like I was helping make music. But what kind of became clear to me as I did it more was what I wasn't actually making music. I was facilitating derivative products. I wasn't actually making the thing that I was really excited about, which was the music. And so as I kind of gained more experience as not a corporate drone, but working in the corporate world, because I wouldn't consider what I did to be corporate droney stuff. It was very dynamic and felt very creative, but it wasn't the creative type of thing that I wanted to be doing. So when COVID came around, I saw this opportunity to kind of switch gears a bit, and I had a lot of time to kind of be introspective and play with the art that I was attracted to with the music, sitting in various garages and spaces, playing pianos and drums and whatever. And then in New South Wales, in Australia, where we are, we had 2 lockdowns. We had the initial lockdown where all the world stopped. Then we had a little break, and then we had another one. And in the second lockdown, I had the opportunity to take over a space where I started a company, and we did facilitation on a larger scale, which was also kind of a mistake from what I think. And then that kind of took ran its course. That was the word I was looking for. That ran its course, and suddenly I was presented with an opportunity where we could start actually making music, and I felt like I was ready to kind of take that step.
So what I'm hearing is it was a mistake.
Well, it wasn't a mistake to make music.
You've arrived here through a series of stacked mistakes.
Well, stacked mistakes followed by a deliberate decision to remove myself from that facilitation space where I was facilitating other people's art into facilitating my own art, if that makes sense. Or my own creative career, or my own career as a musician or composer or songwriter or whatever you want to call it. Culture maker.
Culture creator.
Yes.
That way you get the alliteration in there.
Yeah. So that's how I came to Frights, and Frights kind of came out of this thing that we did with when we were doing the facilitation business, where we were out there making other people's music with them, where we were doing a songwriting session every couple of weeks, where a lot of this music came from, or a lot of the start of this music came from, and where we kind of cut our teeth in the early days of what was then not called Frights. It was just something that we did. Friday Night Lights was what it was called. You can see how it all connects together.
Yeah. So Josh tried to type the name Friday Night Lights into an email
Really quickly.
and missed half the letters. And what came out was very close to the word Frights.
Yes.
And that's the rest is history. It's stuck. There you go.
It's a good anecdote.
There's the
I'm dyslexic. That's how we got to the name.
God.
That's true.
Are you dyslexic? Have you been diagnosed?
I haven't been tested, but I definitely have the symptoms.
Either that or you okay. Anyway.
Words are like backwards sometimes for me.
Yeah, okay.
And I get ahead of myself a lot with the words.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's why Frights. That's how we got there. And yeah, it's been fun so far. And hard. And
so it
sounds
sounds like you had a series of clarifying experiences that made you...
It's a good word.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
That made you more and more clear about what you wanted to be doing with your time.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you wanted to be chasing your dream or helping other people chase theirs.
Yep.
Would that be fair to say?
That's a very good way of saying it. Should I have said that?
I don't know. I mean, it's not too late.
I can't remember what you said. So I had a series of clarifying experiences where I decided to stop making other people's dreams come true and start making my own come true. And so I began Frights with you.
That's nice.
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, it is better. Though it's also quite... Okay, yeah. Yeah. I'll come back to why I think that's particularly funny when it's my turn to answer that question. Okay. Next question then. What were you doing before?
I've already answered that.
I guess you kind of did answer.
I kind of did. But I don't remember that I'd written that question, so I went backwards.
Okay.
I know. Let me clarify a bit more. I was effectively recording bands. Mostly I was recording bands for derivative products, whether they be broadcasts of live shows or web streams for, the Sydney Opera House, or mixing other people's music or producing other people. Yeah, that's what I was doing. And that, for some people is their pursuit. That's what they want to do. But for me, it wasn't. And it was kind of very elusive and unfulfilling for the most part.
Did you find that having to do that type of work where you'd have a song, like you'd be recording Ed Sheeran or something?
One person I never recorded, but anyway.
Okay. You were recording a Taylor Swift or something.
Did do that once.
And you knew the song going in, and so your job was essentially to make the mix sound as much as possible like this existing product.
That's pretty much all the stuff that I did.
Yeah. Did you find that helped grow your sense of like technique and discipline, or not so much? Because it occurs to me that the reason I ask is that my understanding is that a big challenge for musicians is that they have the music in their head, and to then make the product that sounds like the music in their head is jumping a big gap.
I think some musicians have the music in their head. I don't think all of them do.
Yeah, obviously it's possible to come to it through process.
But I think that it's an incredibly hard thing to communicate. And that was one of my frustrations with doing the work that I was doing, was that artists would want it in a certain way and they couldn't communicate that to me. So a lot of the work that I did was not up to the standards that they'd expected. And when I say standards, I'm not talking about objective, technically good standards of making shit sound good. It was because it didn't sound like it's, or how the vibe they wanted. and they couldn't communicate that. And I mean, yes, this sounds like me blaming other people, but I found it's a notorious, like it is a notorious problem in music to communicate the thing that you're trying to reach in words. The music is its own language, after all.
And especially where you've been in a studio environment or something, and you've been spending like a month working with a mix engineer and other engineers in the production process, to the extent where you have developed a common language on how to talk about these things that you're making, and then to go into another environment and try to communicate all those same things, those little nuances are lost, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we were doing that on a multiple weekly basis.
Yeah, where you've suddenly got this time crunch of we have hours to get this right. Not weeks.
Yeah, it was always like that. Yeah, like we wouldn't even know what we were doing at the beginning of most days.
Yeah, I could imagine that being a challenge.
Yeah, it became normal. It's still normal for me to walk into a situation and go, oh, okay, that's what we're doing, and not being frustrated about it. I think a lot of people would find that challenging, and in fact, a lot of people that I've worked with still find it challenging. And it doesn't really sway me, and I guess that's a nice skill to have. So yeah, like I think that was definitely the challenge about what I was doing before. And I think when I started the facilitation business during COVID, or at the end of COVID, this was an opportunity for me to exercise my own vision and kind of develop that idea in my head. And I think, like that was challenging, and I think but I think the experience is directly going to affect what we do with Frights in a really positive way.
Yeah.
Because I know what is a bad decision and what is a good decision now, I think, for the most part. I think I'm still going to make mistakes, but I think I feel pretty good about making good ones, or at least mostly good ones.
Good mistakes. Yeah.
Good decisions.
I'm sure that we're gonna look
the mistakes
back
will be different. Do you know what I mean? And the mistakes won't be
It's also
unrecoverable.
Sure.
And I think with what we're doing with Frights, it's part of the DNA. Making mistakes is part of the
Absolutely.
DNA. Like deliberately part of the DNA.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of part of what we're trying to communicate to the audience we're talking to. Yeah. So in that respect, we've kind of insulated ourselves from those similar mistakes. Yeah.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, at least I'll be happy at the end if it all falls apart, because I'm fulfilled by making the things.
Well, yeah, having gone out on that limb and taken that shot and knowing that you gave it your best, there's something really special in that. Even if it all falls apart. And if nothing else, we've had fun.
I've had fun.
This is fun.
This is fun.
Have some laughs.
This is kind of a conversation that we'd usually have off stream. So that's a good thing.
We should do more of that. Just stream the whole lot. 24/7 last year.
What was it? Justin TV. You remember Justin TV?
I've heard the name, but there's been heaps of it.
Do you know what Justin TV turned into?
What did it turn into?
Twitch.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
The
early days of streaming on the internet. It was just watching Justin live out his life.
Oh, there was that one in the UK that predated Big Brother that was like a big house that had heaps of cameras in all the rooms, and you could just hop on the internet and watch what was going on there.
Still, those things still exist.
And then Band in the Bubble that was my favorite with Regurgitator.
Band in the Bubble.
Do you remember that? Channel V?
I heard about it. I don't think I watched it.
It was Regurgitator making their album Mishmash, and they set up a bubble, I think in Federation Square in Melbourne. This big like plexiglass bubble thing, where there was a bathroom in the middle, and that was the only room you couldn't see into. But all the rest of it, they were just there for like a month in the middle of Melbourne, writing, recording.
Who paid for that?
I think Channel V did, because they had a show. They had Band in the Bubble.
Was that pre Big Brother?
I don't know what year Band in the Bubble was. Let's have a quick look. Band in a Bubble. So that was 2007. So Big Brother would have been out by then.
Yeah, Big Brother was definitely out. Like Australian Big Brother had happened at least a year or two before that.
2000.
Oh, that early. Wow.
Yeah, 2000 was the...
I know
'cause-
people who worked on the early Big Brother over here, and let me tell you, have I heard some stories.
I bet you have.
Shall we continue?
Yes, let's. Anyway, Band in the Bubble was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with Frights. And now we have a song out.
Well,
And
there you
that's
go.
exciting. We
That's-
haven't done another piece of music yet. Oh, we haven't got another piece of music
Well,
out, but
Yeah, we don't have any others out. There's a
plenty
lot
of other
cooking.
music, yeah.
And there's some really cool stuff cooking. I'm really liking because we don't even know what shape it's taking yet. The conventional path for a lot of bands and musicians is this that there's all this stuff that gets made while they're trying to find their sound, as it were. And then when things get released, they've actually made like hundreds of things before that sometimes.
Yeah.
And here we are, like the first thing that's been finished. It's like, yep, out it goes.
Yeah.
So it could be that we shift dramatically from there. I don't know that we will. I think.
No, I think we're on a good track.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
Continue the interviewer.
all right. Settle down. Jeez. Tell us about Only Yesterday. Where did it come from? Apart from yesterday.
It didn't come from yesterday. It came from Not So Nostalgic, in a way. I didn't come up with that name. That was a Matt special, which I actually really liked it, but I like the name origin. Whoa. Did you drop your phone?
Yeah, I dropped my phone.
Well done.
Fell out of my pocket.
Yeah, it came out of one of those early Friday Night Lights sessions, which I wasn't at, and that was with some of our former employees and colleagues, I guess you would call them.
I thought you were going to say former friends for a second.
No, that's not true.
No, they were never friends.
That's not true either. But it was, I think it was Matt, Tommy, Bree, and Kieran. That session, and it was one of the first sessions that was done during a Friday Night Lights, where almost a whole song came together in the 3 hours or 2 hours that people were there.
So what you're saying is that we're Milli Vanilla-ing this big time, given that
not
you and
big
I
time.
are being the face of the band currently, and yet neither of us were in the session where that song originated.
That's true, but at the same time, these sessions were facilitated by me. I put everyone in that room, and I'm not claiming credit for the creative ideas, because a lot of the creative stuff, additional creative stuff, happened in the post-production process, which I was a huge part of.
Yeah. You didn't grow the mushrooms, but you cooked the stew.
Yeah, basically.
What I'm hearing.
And future tracks are not like that at all. There's a lot more me involvement. But we are all in it together, and I'm not denying that it's a team effort. And this song was a team effort. So it came out of a Friday Night Lights, which was effectively a thing that we ran to kind of, well, I guess it was partly to blow off steam. And originally it existed to kind of make sure that we were continually writing music. And it gave Matt an opportunity to test his production skills, and some of our other team members a chance to work with more experienced people. And this song was probably, I think this was in season 2, this tune, like the second kind of group of these that we ran. And it just came out. And then me and Matt sat down a couple of weeks later, and we kind of played around with it, finessed it a bit, and then it sat around for a lot longer. And then we pulled it out and decided it would be the first one we did, because we were really stoked with the vibe, with how Tommy's vocal was, well, like what he'd sung originally, which we ended up re-recording anyway, and just the like, it was a weird structure that we were really attracted to. It was more of an interlude-y thing. Yeah. So it was kind of like, and it was the most complete, like, song that we were happy with. I think that was the other thing. Because at the time we turned this into Frights, we had a lot of half-finished stuff, and we were fighting with a lot of these tracks to figure out what their identity was and make deliberate, intentional decisions around how we finished them. Whereas this one, Not So Nostalgic, now known as Only Yesterday, kind of it had already decided what it was and we knew it, So it gave us an opportunity to take something and then further develop the things around it, like the meta narrative stuff and how we talked about the band and getting the streams up and things like that. Yeah. So
on the meta narrative front as well, I think when you say it tumbled out almost fully formed, part of what made it so compelling as this thing that was falling out and feeling like it was fully formed is that it had this coherence with what we were doing otherwise, right? Like that's why when revisiting it later, it kept kind of inserting itself as this thing that was of a kind of sympathetic path to what we were on. It's part of what made it compelling to us, and we feel maybe compelling to others to listen to. Is that it was speaking that same language somehow.
Yeah. I mean, already to me now, it already feels like it's in the past, if that makes sense. It's not that I'm bored of it or anything like that, but it's because it's out. It's like, okay, that was that point in this journey, and now it's a bit old, if that makes sense. And I mean,
it's of its time.
It is of its time. For me, it's of its time, for sure.
Yeah. It is also something that you've known for a year.
Yeah, but not as intimately as Matt knew it. Like Matt and me kind of make these deliberate attempts to hand stuff off to each other at certain points in the process. And kind of a lot of the original kind of tracks that we've started originate with Matt and then they get passed to me. So he kind of starts things and then I take them to the end, if that makes sense.
Steal them away.
Well, no, because they're always created in a relatively collaborative way, whether or not I'm there at the start. Like the next song that we're bringing out, that was in a modern version of Friday Night Lights, a new version of Friday Night Lights, where it was done as Frights, deliberately collaborating with another artist. One of which is Pistol Black / Tommy / Ghost Coast, depending on which.
Is he the ghost or is he the coast in the Ghost Coast?
Don't know. I think they're talking about this particular part of the world, to be honest. But yeah,
because we're all white.
Perhaps that is it. And then Opucho, who's the other part of Ghost Coast, but has her own solo. Project.
Oh, does she have solo stuff as well?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's got some stuff out.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. So
I should listen to the music of the artist that we're collaborating with, maybe.
You should. It's good.
Maybe I will.
Maybe you will. So with that, like it was purely a case of working differently in the past to how we work now.
Okay. Good. So the next question is, what was the intention when creating Only Yesterday?
Yeah, I think we've kind of covered it, but let me summarize it. Giving me a second shot at it.
Go on. Good. I like that way of thinking.
The intention behind the conception of this track was literally to walk in, write a track quickly, and walk out again. That was the initial intention. It was to build proficiency in what we were doing. And I think we were able to achieve that with this track. Certainly in the songwriting component.
So what does the intention become now with future and current interactions with that song?
It still kind of exists as a means of building proficiency. And, because even though after it was written, the proficiency focus changed from writing a song to finishing a song. And then once we finished the song, it became proficiency around releasing a song and distributing a song. And then it became proficiency around creating derivative products, using that song as a core basis, and further collaboration with other artists. So the remix that I'm working on, so proficiency in rearranging something that I was heavily involved in creating, which is just a bizarre mindfuck to kind of do. Fun, but absolutely crazy on the brain. And then collaborating with Gentleman Leader around a kind of sampled hip hop, even like a brand new song effectively. That's been kind of the building of that proficiency around that's been cool. And we also were trying to build proficiency around producing derivative content around covers, which I would argue in the first attempt was a fucking failure. But but something that we learned from. So I think the intention has carried on throughout the process, and it's carried on, and it's worked really well because we kind of set the intention. It became more deliberate as we got further into Frights that this was the thing that we were using to build in proficiency, and everything we do was kind of about building proficiency. Yeah.
It's nice to have that through line. Actually, I hadn't
thought of that either.
Neither. It's great.
Wow.
We're
learning.
Okay, that was nice. Nice. I'm glad you went back for the second shot and summarized.
Me too.
That was good.
I always, because I've been doing this right. Like, let me kind of expand upon that particular part.
Let me summarize my summary.
No. I wanna talk about something that I've found really useful and is kind of really pertinent to this activity, and that conversation around proficiency. Every single time I talk about why we're doing Frights, and the kind of the way that the market kind of interacted with the old business and how we're here today. Every single time I talk about that, every single time I talk about how music is culture, and when you make music, it's a cultural artifact, and so when you're making music, you're actually making culture and all that fun stuff. Every time I kind of talk to someone about that, I feel like I get a little bit better at unpacking or like kind of chipping away at the detail of what that actually means and how I deliberately apply that to what I'm doing. Yeah. And that was another example of that. I find like it just allows me to get my thoughts in order.
It's so important and so kind of underrated in the way that, like in talking about art, that the being able to talk about it concisely is such a skill, because you're dealing with such complicated subject matter, and you're often trying to snap people out of their conventional ways of thinking. And how do you do that in like 10 seconds? It's bizarre. So yeah, I've noticed that as well. Like the first few times that I've spoken to you about things like the way that music creates meaning, and that songs are totems of meaning that people attach their personal experience to, and that's how they function. That's why people listen to a song that's about, Bryan Adams buying a guitar, and they tie that to, actually the summer of '69 was this actually incredible experience for me as a baby boomer.
Yeah.
And that song becomes a totem for their childhood. And it's not a totem of Bryan Adams' childhood. It's a totem of that person's childhood.
Yeah.
And that sort of idea is very hard to get someone to accept as something that is true. But through having spoken about it and unpacking what that actually means, I've gotten better at talking about that. And it's something that we're going to continue having to get better and better.
Well, I'd argue that almost everything that we need to do around the project that is Frights, stepping out of this interview format for a second, is about salesmanship.
Absolutely.
And being like, you know, people talk about salesmanship as being a dirty word. It's like, oh, you're trying to flog your wares to me. How dare you? You're kind of undermining my, you know, ability to make my own decisions and inserting your decision into my decision or whatever the hell that crap is that makes everyone feel dirty.
Well, they feel like they're being manipulated, right?
Yeah.
To sell is to manipulate.
Yeah. And look, to a degree it is, but for me, maybe it's just the way I frame it, but I have always wanted to share with people strong emotional experiences like other people's music has shared with me. That's part of my little personal manifesto, if you will. That a reason that drives me to do things is that I want people to feel an emotion that I'm trying to express to them. And yeah, sure, music is the means that I do that through, and it is, I guess, manipulative in that respect, but it's not. There's a difference between manipulation and malicious manipulation, you know, and I don't want to maliciously hurt people, you know. I want people to, I'd like to encourage people to feel things.
Yeah.
So that's why I do it.
Sure.
You know. And so, you know, and you have to sell. Like, if you're expecting to have a sustainable career in this crazy capitalist world we live in, you have to make money.
Yeah.
And to make money, you need to be able to sell yourself. And to be able to sell yourself, you need to be able to always talk about what you're doing, shamelessly, you know, all the time, even if it gets annoying to other people. You know, how else are people going to find out about it? You know, which is part of why we're doing this to a degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of looking specifically at artists, when people talk about doing the interview circuit, this is one of the things that comes up, is it becomes grueling because you are asked the same question over and over and over again, and you have to give basically the same answer to the person from this radio station, to the person from that TV station, from that interview show, from that YouTube channel, from that magazine. You're just regurgitating the same talking points again. You essentially become a politician.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, and to a degree you have to, because news is entertainment. Let's talk about the news component. The news is like the Instagram of your traditional media world.
Absolutely.
It is literally about sound bites and headlines. And that's newspapers, the 6 o'clock news and Sunrise, the morning shows. They're all just about headlines and quotable things, right? The bit where it gets really and to be honest, that's where a lot of artists will make the most impact. That's why they're so popular, those shows with the TV stations, because they're well, at least with the people who own those products, because they can flog stuff for other people, and that's where the value is. So people, you know, might pay for the opportunity, or are part of like a cartel of those that get the opportunity to use these systems to release things. But for me, and I think for the artists as well, and that's why you see artists doing the more long form stuff these days, that's where the interest is. So even someone like Jimmy Carr doing the Diary of a CEO, even though I guess he's a CEO, he runs his own kind of comedy situation. Listening to that podcast, you know, he had a great time on that, and he, you know, goes on that and talks about stuff he wouldn't normally talk about, because most of the time you see Jimmy Carr, he's cracking jokes and ripping on people in the audience, or, you know, hosting a show or whatever. And then you get to see him in this different light where he's talking about why he does certain things and how he navigates the world and things like that. And that, for me as a fan, becomes the thing I'm really attracted to those kinds of things. And I think the artists are attracted to that too. And that's why I'm attracted to this kind of thing. Even though doing it originally was really nerve-wracking, once you kind of do it once, it becomes really exciting, you know. And so going back to your point on the media circuit being really grueling, I think it's par for the cause, and most good practitioners know that it's an important thing, and that's why they sit down and they do their day of junket crap, you know, which is incredibly unfulfilling, but is, you know, like cutting out shorts is for you, or for me, like kind of just.
I don't think anything's that grueling.
Well, yeah. Or me. I don't know. I don't have an example right now. Maybe you have an example for me. What's the grueling thing for me?
Probably like
the
the
admin,
accountancy
yeah,
stuff.
all that shit, yeah. The admin and the
Calling-
tax stuff.
Calling the accountants, calling the
banks
ATO.
friggin' all that crap. Yeah. All that stuff is incredibly grueling and does my head in, but is required.
Skullduggery.
Yeah.
Speaking of good words,
That's a good one.
skullduggery.
Shall we continue?
Let's
All right.
let the skullduggery continue.
Yeah.
During the production process, did you run into any walls? Were there doors in those walls? Could you have used the door instead?
There were doors, many doors.
Wow.
But
And I somehow missed all of them.
I forgot my glasses. I think let me talk about the things that we learnt in this process, because that will kind of highlight the walls.
What did we learn?
I think me and Matt specifically learnt how we should be handing off projects to one another, or how to collaborate more closely. One of the big mistakes we made in the development of this song, in the writing of this song, in the production process of this song, was the handoff. So once Matt had said, "It's all yours. Here you go," we'd made a decision to not hand over the original Ableton file, the original DAW file, because I didn't want to be coloured by Matt's decisions when I was mixing. I think that was potentially a mistake, and caused me to bang my head against the wall a lot in the early part of the mixing process, because we effectively removed the identity of the song in that handoff. He produced stems, which he left on anything that created vibe, plug-in wise, sound wise, but removed anything that was mix related. And as more established artists might understand, that's kind of a bad thing, because a lot of the vibe and stuff is done through those initial decisions around how a song should fit into the structure. How a sound should fit into the structure of the song. So we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a bit and removed all that work. So we ended up kind of double handling some stuff. On a positive side, it did kind of make me think outside the box a bit when I was producing the song. So a lot of stuff ended up being reamped. Vocals ended up going through small speakers and into other microphones, or put through amps, or like the drums ended up being put through like a what are they called? A Vibra Champ Fender amp. Little mini, really cool amp that something like Mac DeMarco uses a lot. And it just gives it a cool vibe. And then recording that with like an old ribbon microphone. And so things like that were problematic.
Would that stuff not have been possible with the original DAW file?
Yeah, it would have been.
But it's just that...
But it took me longer to get there. So I think I might have made similar decisions later, like in the process, but I would have got there quicker. And I wouldn't have been smacking my head against the wall for as long. But
Rest assured, there still would have been head smacking.
Yeah, but not as much. And I think if we're talking about proficiency and getting to stuff faster, which is a goal of ours, is getting to stuff faster and improving workflow. And I'm opening my mouth, thank you. Improving workflow. It's important that we nip that shit in the butt going forward. Yeah. So that was a big one. The other part was the distribution component. That was because this was the first song going out. There was a lot of learning and a lot of trying to figure out how the world worked.
A lot of reading the documentation.
Yeah, a lot of manual reading.
A lot of reading the reviews.
Yeah. And you would have seen some of that on our earlier streams. And so that
yes,
was
dear audience.
I guess that's part of the production, but it wasn't part of the music production process. It was part of the administration, the stuff that I hate.
Yes. So tell us more about the individual elements of the song?
Okay. Well, I kind of touched on one just then. That was the drums. I think that was the thing that held the song together. Was the way that when I was mixing it, it was a real challenge to kind of tie the end of the song together, and the drums were the key to making that happen. So what I did was something that Matt and I have done before, which is put drums through guitar amplifiers, reamp them through guitar amplifiers to kind of get a crunch and get a kind of warm, softy, kind of weird saturation-y tube thing going on. And effectively bring vibe into the music more than what was there. And I am so stoked with the resulting drum sound. So I think Matt recorded Kieran playing drums after the fact. I'm not sure if it was done on the night or if they did it the next day. And then Matt played with those a bit, and he added some samples and stuff, and then he handed that off to me. And so we'd recorded the drums in this kind of indie way, which was like a 5 mic kit, like a kick, a snare, a spot, and one single overhead. And there's another mic that I'm missing that I can't remember. Might have been the hi-hat. It was a hi-hat. That's what it was. So five mics.
What's a spot?
It depends on what you call it. Like a core would be another one, but it's a mic that's not really on a specific part of the drum kit. Like modern drum recording technique means that you put like a mic close up on every single drum. The problem with that is that you're just capturing the drum and you're not really capturing the drum in its context. The kit in its context. And all my favorite drum sounds that I've ever captured have been with like 1 or 2 mics. Any more, and you kind of start getting, you end up having to manufacture a sound.
Doesn't that not also become just chaos to have so many mics?
It can be chaos. It depends on what you want to do. It's about intention. The intention of this song was like nostalgia, in an artistic context. Nostalgia was a real core part of the original creation of the song, and I would argue that recording drums with like 1 or 2 mics is the way they used to do it in the old days, and so that was kind of the idea. And that's how I continued the idea in the post-production process, by taking, effectively a mixed stem of the drums and pushing it out a single mono amplifier and recording it again. And then I put that back in and then added some of the original sound, the original core mic and overhead, and made them kind of like a faux overhead stereo pair that